It's so wonderful to have so many of you here today. Thank you so much for coming. I know that it's an early morning on a Friday and it's freezing cold, and we're talking about health insurance, which is not always the most enjoyable topic, but it's certainly very important. We have a phenomenal speaker with us today. Her name is Sarah Dash, and she's a research fellow at the Georgetown University Health Policy Institute.
It's really such a privilege to be here. I mean, certainly both on a personal level, but I have some appreciation of what you all do every day, and I can't think of a profession that could benefit more from the Affordable Care Act. I'm going to focus on the coverage provisions here of the Affordable Care Act. I think it's important to get a sense of what exactly is going on in terms of the health insurance market and where people get coverage now, where they might get it under the ACA. I'm going to talk about why the ACA was needed and how it expands coverage, particularly for individuals and small businesses, whether you're nonprofit or for-profit small business. Going to get into Medicaid, because that's another important aspect of coverage under this law, and try to get a focus on what you can do now. Before, you might have had to go to one insurance company, Blue Cross, and then Cigna, and then another one, and fill out all the application forms and get denied or get a different rate, or maybe go through a broker to help you. Now the idea is you go in, you put in an application, you give them some basic information, and I'm talking about the individuals, but I'm gonna get to the small businesses too in a minute. You put in one application and you find out if you might be eligible for either free coverage under Medicaid or lower cost coverage, private brand name coverage through the sort of marketplace section. And then you get to pick plans and compare side by side. You're going to be able to compare based on premiums and cost sharing and maybe quality ratings and some other factors. So for small businesses, they also have their own own marketplace. It's called the Shop. And Eric from Small Business Majority is going to be talking about the Shop marketplace. But the idea here is for the small businesses that want to offer coverage, it gives them a way to more easily compare options and get coverage to their employees.
What's the number one thing that comes to your mind when you talk to a small business owner about healthcare? Cost, the money. I see this guy over here. Yeah, the money. Yeah, that's exactly right. And with the status quo, we saw that about 28% of the self-employed were uninsured. Small business owners were paying 18% more for the same exact plan that their large business competitors were paying for. That was with the status quo before health reform. So the plans in the Shop will be organized just the same way as they are in the individual marketplace. They will start at bronze, go up to platinum, and again, with employee choice, there will be a streamlined billing process where it doesn't matter how many different plans your employees choose and what different carriers they will choose to accompany those plans. It will be one streamlined bill that it's important to know will be you will pay the Shop, not the insurer.
If you're self-employed, you're no longer going to be able to buy small business insurance. In New York, you used to be able to buy small business insurance as a sole proprietor. You can't do that anymore. However, you can go on the individual exchange and qualify for subsidies and qualify for Medicaid. How to pick a plan, right? We find when we're working with people that the two areas that they find the most challenging in applying are documenting their income, which we'll talk about later, and picking a plan. Up until now, generally, people have gotten insurance through their employer or their spouse or their parent, and you just sort of get what they offer you. You get a plan. You don't have a whole lot of choice. Now we have a system where you have a lot of choice, right? But you also have the responsibility to figure out what is best for you. And you need to do a little research. And you need to look at not just the cost of the premiums, but also the deductible, whether you want a high deductible plan or a low deductible plan, what the out-of-pocket maximum is. The premiums are going to be higher if the deductible and the out-of-pocket maximums are lower. Okay? Do you qualify for subsidies? That could radically change your decision. If you qualify for subsidies, you may be spending $130 a month on insurance instead of $580. And do you qualify for cost-sharing reductions? Cost-sharing reductions apply to people who make less than 2.5 times the federal poverty level, okay? So if you make less than that amount, you're gonna get a break on your deductibles and your co-pays if you buy a silver level plan. So if you make less than 2.5 times the federal poverty level, the bronze plan is not gonna make a whole lot of sense for you. The silver plan would make much more sense for you.